I used to be that person. Wake up early, read, journal, no phone for 30 minutes after waking up. All of it every day. The whole checklist, the whole religion. And now, I don't do most of that consistently anymore. And I'm doing really better. Not better, as in motivational quote, better. Better as I'm stable. I don't hate myself. I don't restart my life every Monday. So, if you're the type of person who keeps trying to build habits and keeps failing, I think I can save you a lot of time, because the problem isn't that you are undisciplined. The problem is what you think habits are. Quick disclaimer, so we are clear. This isn't a wake up at 5 a.m. video. I'm not selling a routine. I'm not trying to motivate you, and I'm not going to pretend I'm a perfect machine. This is just me explaining what happened to me, why I got stuck in the habit loop, and why I think the habits culture is, honestly, a sickness. I didn't start doing habits because I loved growth. I was 17 back then, just a typical high schooler in Europe. I started because I was at a low point, depressed and fully drained. I wanted to escape very bad. One day, it was about 8 p.m. and I found one video about minimalism, and it wasn't the aesthetic. It was like the optimization type, sort of tips and 30-day challenges. So, I got something like definitions. If something doesn't serve you, remove it. If something wastes your time, redesign it. Treat your life like a system, and so on. And I swear, after that first video, I went full psycho. Same day, cleaned my room, set my alarm to 6 a.m., downloaded a book, started reading immediately, and it worked really fast. That's why people fall in love with habits when they do it for the first time. Because the first weeks feel like magic. You sleep better, you eat better, you get that control feeling, you feel like you finally found the secret. For the first time in my life, I had structure, silence, direction, and even a mature goal to achieve something. And I was honestly happy because habits gave me the relief. But I got into the trap where 95% are typically ending at that relief becomes addictive. I stayed like this for about 6 months, but I have traveled to another country. And yes, I missed few weeks, mostly doing nothing, what I was doing in the past months. Feeling was strange back then. It's not like I lost my goals and direction. I still wanted the planned out life, but my system just failed. And I think because of incompetence in systems building and the wrong interpretation of habits in my head. I came back and suddenly felt that waking up early started to feel violent. Reading was boring. Journaling felt very forced. And as an obsession confirmation, I couldn't start the feeling or the vibe of productivity again. I wanted to be that productive version of me, but I couldn't. That's when the habit trap starts. So I did what everyone does in this kind of situation. Basically, I rewatched the same videos, reread the same stuff, tried to get back. And this weekly ritual just accidentally popped up. On Monday, I was starting over. On Tuesday, I was pretty much doing well. But after that, I was failing. Every weekend, I was feeling very guilty and hating myself for not accomplishing the simple things which I did before. And that's why I'm saying, the obsession with habits is not self-improvement. It's a loop where you are trying to resurrect a version of yourself that only existed under perfect conditions. And here's my opinion now. Habits are not the solution or discipline or personality trait. It is a tool which you can use and sometimes need to use them in the appropriate situations. And it is okay to have habits. But what is not okay is an obsession with them. There are 3 ways which I found out of how people are relating to them incorrectly. First, the struggling insistence. When you force yourself to do a habit, even when it's not doing anything useful anymore. And here especially, it is important to split the habit and the commitment to something. For example, one of my habits is if something interesting suddenly came into my head, I will write it, and maybe we'll expand later, but I will not be trying to think of something to specially write it in my notes, just because it is a habit of free writing, or how it is called. That's a commitment. Like you're trying to prove something, or you just try to feel that you are a good and productive person. Second, the desperate jumping. When you fail one habit and you don't fix the system, you jump to a new one. I was experiencing a lot of this when I was trying to resurrect my happy life. When I couldn't wake up at 5 a.m., I was questioning my morning routine instead of fixing my schedule. Or, if the book wasn't interesting for me, it was just easier to change it for something easier. Even journaling, which was fun at the start, but then I was just trying to replace it with anything else. It felt somewhat productive for me, but it is just a movement without any direction, because you are averaging some skills and not really mastering. And third, using habits as an escape. This is the biggest one. People use habits to escape from the real problems. So they build a habit stack to feel clean. And yes, it feels better with habits because you are just filling your day with the more hours, with all of those meditations, journals, yoga, and then you have less time for the problems. Again, everything was in my real experience. When I was doing all of this, I was insecure by the personal reasons. So I wanted to have more control over my life. Basically, I was creating the fake problems in order to feel myself in control, which could be solved only by those habits. And when life hits, the habit stack breaks. So the insecurity and depression is returning because those habits were not foundations. Instead, they were like an anesthesia. So what do I do instead? I have stopped worshipping habits and started to reimagine them as functional pivots. It is not something which is done every day, but what I can use when it is really needed. Example, journaling. I don't journal regularly anymore. I journal when I notice I'm starting to forget what's happening in my life. Those days, I can just loose the important details so I can just sit for an hour or two and try to remember what happened with me in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Same with waking up early. I don't wake up at 5 or 6. I wake up at 8 and on weekends at 9 or 10. And yes, with an alarm clock. I just function better that way. But for me, it is not a problem to wake up at 5, 6, or 7. I can, because my sleep is stable. I really worked hard on building the protection of my sleeping hours and correct hormones generation. So if for a week I need to go to bed at 2 and wake up at 7, I can easily do it because it is an outlier from the whole statistics, which will not hurt me. So, I don't really use the word habits anymore. For me, it is just behavioral trends. The patterns which can produce the same results with the flexibility, so they can be used with my functional pivots correctly. If I need to study new information for my project, I can start reading about this exact technology for a week, then finally implement it, and then do anything I want or something useful in those freed hours out of reading. If you're stuck in the habit loop, the answer is not to try harder. The answer is stop cycling. Stop restarting your identity every week. Build systems that make habits optional. Feel free to write your story in the comments. Next video, why planning is usually procrastination in a suit, and what I do instead. Habits are tools. Systems are the foundation.